What's going on YouTube? JT is Reborn here, and welcome back to another edition of my Godzilla comic book reviews. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about Godzilla Rivals, Rodan vs. Ebirah, issue number 1. I don't know if they're going to have any sort of continuation of this thing, because with these little one-shot Godzilla Rival issues, they kind of just end, and there's never really any follow-up so far, given all the issues. But, you know, let's go ahead and talk about this one. So this one is written by James F. Wright, artist Philip Johnson, design and letters by Nathan Wittick, editor David Marriott, supervising editor Tom Waltz, editor Jasmine Joyner. There you go. This is done by IDW Publishing, of course, who's been publishing pretty much most of the Godzilla comics that come out, although they did do that co-publishing thing with Boom Studios and their Power Rangers, Godzilla vs. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, which I still got to talk about at some point. I don't know what the deal is. When I try covering those issues, there seemed to be some sort of something going on with it. Maybe it's just whenever you talk about Power Rangers, the copyright system is just like flags it immediately. I don't know. It's just kind of a weird scenario. But basically, let's go ahead and talk about this one. So this issue is set in 2030, and given that this is an issue that's primarily focused on Rodan versus Ebirah, the plot and setting of it is something rather unexpected. If you look at the cover here, you see Godzilla on the cover, you see Rodan, you see Ebirah, and you see a giant space satellites, and you're thinking, okay, how is this all going to work? Well, it's a rather interesting one. So it's set in 2030. You have this giant satellite that's 400 kilometers above Earth. There's a giant space elevator that goes from the satellite all the way down to the elevator to the ground level in Tokyo Bay. And basically the satellite's 400 kilometers above the Earth. A bunch of the scientists are up there doing all sorts of experiments, and some of the experiments involve the various kaiju. You have Ebirah that's on this thing, you have Rodan in there, you have Biollante, and you have a few other surprises within this thing. So this is the not too distant future. This feels something right out of a 1960s or 70s Toho film with the technology and the science behind it. I'm not sure it's a very smart idea to have these giant monsters on this satellite floating above planet Earth. I guess it keeps people safe on the ground level, but it's still kind of a risky gesture, because if one of them breaks out, your satellite could they could crash down to Earth, and all this other stuff could basically happen, which inevitably does. Rodan does break free from his capture, and then him and Ebirah start this big, crazy, epic action-fueled fight, which goes from all the way from 400 something miles, or a couple hundred miles above the Earth, down this giant elevator into space. So yes, Rodan and Ebirah are fighting in a giant space elevator that goes from the satellite to Earth. I can't tell you I've ever seen that in a kaiju fight before, so I thought that was really original and very creative way to get these two to fight, because they're basically free-falling. And it's both of them outside their element. Who is truly stronger? Who could really win this thing? And plus, with these two massive objects falling at their current rates, that's risky to everyone else back on Earth. Because if they're not stopped in time, that'll just level Tokyo with the sudden impact of these two just falling. That didn't seem to happen in King of the Monsters when Godzilla was dropped from space, but maybe it's because there's two various kaijus here. But yes, so the artwork and action in this thing is the main standout of this issue. The human element is not really all that special. They're just a bunch of scientists, and one of them kind of does like one thing, and I don't know, they just weren't that interesting. I felt like some of these other stories have some interesting human elements. This one didn't really. It's just a bunch of scientists who constantly say each other's names over and over and over again until one of them tries to do something with this whole thing in a rather risky rescue, or a way to kind of stop this whole situation. They also utilize Biollante at one point as a defense mechanism, but that starts to backfire. They utilize Mothra's webbing at one point, that starts to backfire, and inevitably they have to call out Mechagodzilla, but the risk with that is when you summon Mechagodzilla, because this is more of the Kiryu form, which, by the way, this panel right here, look at this artwork. That just looks really awesome. And I mean to emphasize that the art in this issue is some of the best I've seen, and it's a really, really solid-looking issue. So if you're looking for the art and the action and a creative setting for the monsters to fight, I think this issue has it for you. The human element, yeah, really wasn't anything like too spectacular about it, because we've had some interesting human stories go on within this IDW stuff before, but this one just really didn't do it for me. Also, there's one shot of Godzilla 2 that's one of the creepiest shots I've ever seen. Like, look at this. So, because Mechagodzilla is unleashed, that always seems to attract the regular Godzilla. That's one of the reasons they were so hesitant to launch him initially. And plus, because it's the Kiryu one, it's made around the exoskeleton of the original Godzilla, and there's a risk in controlling him when he's further out range. That's why they had to kind of use him as a last resort. But this shot right here of Godzilla, it's just a very eerie one. It kind of reminds me of the movie The War of the Gargantuas. If anyone's familiar with it, there's a scene in the movie where two fishermen are fishing. It's during the daytime. Their net gets caught up. One of them looks over to see what's in the net, and you just have this creepy image of Gyra, the green gargantua, just kind of looking up through the water. That's kind of what this reminds me of. And it's a very eerie shot, and it's kind of makes Godzilla look more intimidating and threatening. This is the only panel you really see of him in the issue, but it's a memorable one. And like I said, the whole black and white aspect of it, the creepy silhouette, I really like that image of Godzilla right there. So we get some other action. Mechagodzilla, the Kiryu version, gets involved in the fight, kind of stops Rodan in that. Ebirah seems to escape at one point. Why they didn't have Mechagodzilla finish him off is beyond me, but that's kind of where it ends. And then we get a bit of an intrigue where one of the characters is seemingly holding baby Godzilla up on their space satellite. And I guess it's your turn now, whatever that means. I don't know. It says next issue right here. I see Destroyer there. I see part of Biolante. So I have no clue where this thing is going to go from here. I don't know if we're going to get a direct follow-up or anything in that regards, but there's enough mystery and intrigue to kind of continue this thing a bit. Maybe they'll add some more intrigue and mystery around the human characters, but because like the ending bit was like, okay, I wonder where this could go from here, or if it's just going to be a lingering cliffhanger, because a lot of the IDW comics have that aspect to it with the Godzilla ones in particular. But this one in particular, I've said particular a lot, haven't I? This one is a pretty solid one, at least for the art and action and the setting. I thought that was very creative. And if you're looking for some great artwork and a creative setting with some good action with the monsters, I think you'll appreciate this one because it's an original one. I can't tell you I've seen a fight scene between two giant monsters that's gone from a giant space satellite through a giant space elevator down to the planet Earth. So that to me is original. I got to give props for that. That's a creative fight scene. Maybe some other movie has done it. Definitely not in the Godzilla series. The only space battle we really had. Well, there's Moguera versus Space Godzilla and Godzilla or Space Godzilla. They're flying around in space and fighting. But there's also Godzilla fighting on another planet in Invasion of Astro Monster. But other than that, this is something that we haven't really seen before, at least in this concept. So I got to give the issue props for that. If you're looking for that, then I think you'll be pleased. Human element, not all that interesting or anything that exciting in that regards, but that's the case with a lot of monster movies, but I do think that the creative setting for the monsters and the artwork is enough to recommend this issue for me. So there you go. But if you have any thoughts on the issue, if you've read it, or you have any other thoughts on Godzilla IDW comics, let me know in the comment section down below. Be sure to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the YouTube channel for more content, hit that bell for notifications. And yeah, that's going to wrap it up for the comic book reviews for this week. I got a couple of DC ones, I got some IDW ones, and then later on tonight, you'll also see a video of me talking about the latest Gerard Butler action movie known as Plane. That's it. That's the title. So look forward to all that, and look forward to more Godzilla IDW comics. It's always a nice surprise when they pop up in my Comixology app, because IDW doesn't really promote these things all that much. I mean, I follow them on Twitter, but I hardly see them ever promote these things. So I feel like I have to kind of promote them myself when I can, so, and support them so we can get more stuff, because I really like a lot of what IDW has done with the Godzilla label. I do kind of wish we could get another Rulers of Earth-esque series that spans a large continuity and goes on for a while. I think that's needed, but only time will tell if we get something like that. Maybe Godzilla and Gamera can finally cross over. I mean, we got Godzilla versus Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, which to me was probably my favorite comic book of last year. In general to read, because it was just a blast from start to finish, and I wouldn't mind seeing more of those IPs crossing over at some point in time. But yeah, so I've rambled on long enough. Thank you all so much for watching this video. Be sure to comment, like, subscribe to the YouTube channel for more Godzilla related content and all sorts of other things. I'm gonna get going, and as always, take care now. Bye bye then, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace.